Hey everyone, hello and welcome, Tony Bing here. For the second video tonight we will have a look at the Angela quality of life update. Now it certainly looks quite interesting. I've just had a quick look over it, but it was really good that she got this update because I know she was struggling with spirit issues and that's no longer going to be a problem anymore. So let's look through this the normal way we do. We'll start off with the 2 skill trees and then we'll finish up with the talents and traits. So first off, what we'll actually do here is just quickly look at the new resource. You can see down here it's Heaven's Wrath. Now as we go over the tooltips for the skills in this first tree, they will actually tie in with this. So the first skill we have is Rending Blades, which is still your basic melee, and it's a damage bonus versus bleeding targets. We then have Rage of Siphos, so this will generate Heaven's Wrath. And you'll notice a lot of the tooltips have this. It now says while Rage of Asgard is active, you can spend a set amount of Heaven's Wrath to instantly refresh the power's cooldown. So essentially, the kind of skills that have cooldowns, we can spam them during this kind of berserker period. So that really could be interesting, and I think you're going to want to get your spirit as high as you can so you can then spam as many attacks during that period when you have that. The next skill, this has changed quite a bit. I know on live a lot of people actually use this as a spender. Personally, I could never get the hang of it because I don't think it was intended to be a spender, for the reason that if you had it on left click and you were far away from an enemy and you clicked on them, you would start casting it straight away as opposed to running up to them and casting it. So what they have now done is they've changed this into a cooldown skill. It still has a damage bonus versus bleeding, but it has max charges. You can also spam it during your Heaven's Wrath period as well. And then we have Know My Name and Weep. So this one will generate Heaven's Wrath, and again you can spam it during that uptime on it. Then we have Icor's Wrath. So this is your execute. Brutal strike chance 100%, which is nice on an execute. And you can spam this. Looking at it actually, the costs are some of them are a bit lower, most of them the same. That can be very powerful. Spammable execute with 100% brutal strike chance. I can see that maybe getting changed before it comes to live. But next skill is Hunter's Blades. So this is a melee basic attack. This one will regenerate health and also regenerate wrath. I'm pretty certain this is actually new, so let me show it off. There we go. As mentioned, I do think that it's new. It has been quite a while since I've last played Angela, as you can possibly see from the fact over here I've stripped her of all gear, so apologies for that, any Angela fans, but let me know in the comments if that is new or not. But next up we have Heaven's Fury. So with this one you're doing 8 hits, invulnerable while it's casting. The tooltip is currently bug saying 0 seconds, and again you can spam this if needs be. It does cost quite a lot of wrath, the 700, but again possibly for the reason that you're invulnerable that it costs so much. And then we finish up with the signature, Nothing for Nothing. So same idea here, can be activated 3 times within 8 seconds, 30-second cooldown, and the first activation triggers a sword sweep, the final triggers a ribbon wielding Icor strike, and it regenerates health. Can't remember if it regenerated health on live. I think that may be new. If so, that's pretty nice and will help with some of our squishy issues. And then finally it's got a damage bonus versus bleeding targets. But let's now look at the Heavenly Ribbons tree. So with this section here in the ribbons, they've been changed in respect that Gaz is wanting them to really be for regenerating health. That's the kind of flavour they have, and you'll notice that as we run through all the tooltips. The first one we look at anyway is Riven Ribbons. So this is your vulnerability, and you can see that it's regenerating health there, 350, and also it's got the same Rage of Asgard that you can spam it as many times as you can actually have the power for. We then have Heavenly Charge, which is just your standard dash there. If you do want to dash about the screen like a madman, you've got the option while Rage of Asgard is available. And then we have Binding Ribbons. So this will be your weaken, also a stun, regenerating health, and same idea. I won't say it every time. You can see the Rage of Asgard part there. And then we now have Hypnotic Ribbons. So this will confuse enemies, and they do 2000% damage to other enemies. Regenerates a huge 1000 health per second, area duration 4 seconds, and you can spam it during Rage of Asgard. We then have our Crash Down, which is Angelic Smite here. This will generate Wrath for you. And the change on this now is previously you would crash down and spin round with your ribbons, but from what I've seen there was something to do with the animation that was causing issues. So what you can do is the standard skill will just be a crash down, but I believe through talents you can restore the ribbon swipe. So let's show the standard skill. There we go there. Before previously when she landed she would do a little spin as well. That's away for now, but I'm pretty sure it's brought back in when we discuss the talents. But next skill anyway, it's Piercing Ribbons here. This is your pummel attack, and it's doing 700 health per second regen and damage per hit of course as well there. And then the final skill before we move on to the talents and traits is Stunning Ichors. So this will stun enemies, and it also is an execute, again with the 100% brutal strike chance. The fact you can spam it during Rage of Asgard, I can see that getting changed. If not, it's going to be pretty good. But let's now look at the talents and traits. Okay, so before we look at the talents, we'll quickly look at the tooltip for the primary resource. We know it's called Heaven's Wrath. Generates while in combat. When it's filled, you trigger Rage of Asgard, and the buff is during this you can use cooldown powers to spend Heaven's Wrath to refresh their cooldown. Now I actually have 1500 Heaven's Wrath, and I have Angelic Smite just waiting for the end of this video so I can spam it. So there's a reason for you to not click off the video and sit watching. Well, you could always fast forward through it I suppose, but please don't do that. Let's talk about the talents now anyway. We have the first talent, it's Predator's Claim. So Heavenly Charge, which is your dash, will now slow enemies caught in its area, does increase damage, and it also gains an additional charge there. And then we have Relentless, so Sword and Ichor powers have a 25% chance to automatically activate Relentless. And then Wrathful Blade, sword powers generate 50% more Heaven's Wrath, and it increases sword power damage as well there. Talent line 2, we have Wrath of Goddess, so Rage of Asgard gains the following effects: critical hit chance, base damage, attack and move speed, and the cost of Heaven's Wrath skills goes down by 10%, so that's quite nice. And then we have Rejuvenating Ribbons, so ribbons restore 50% more health, so really you've got the choice. Do you go for damage? Do you go for health and tankiness? Also offers a rather large 30% base health there. And then we have Soaring Huntress, so Angelic Smite now triggers a Slicing Ribbon attack after landing, damaging enemies and granting strengthened ribbons. That's the crash down, the second part of it, which is spins that I mentioned earlier, so if you want you can restore that. Talent line 3, we have Flying Ribbons, so with this the cooldowns of Heavenly Ribbons powers reduced by 25%. And then we have Ribbon Warrior, so when you activate a Heavenly Ribbons power, the next Assassin's Armory power used within 4 seconds will deliver a guaranteed critical hit. So there's probably some nice combinations you could use there. And we finish up this tree with Mistress at Arms, so its cooldowns of non-signature Assassin's Armory powers are reduced by 25%. So do you want to buff the ribbons, do you want to buff the armory, or do you want to use a mixture of two? So that's quite nice, the options there. Talent line 4, we start off with Whipping Ribbons. So Living Ribbons gains the following effects. It's quite hard to see all these whipping ribbons and living ribbons, so bear with me. It's total damage, critical hit and brutal strike chance, and also attack speed. And then we move on to Apprehending Ribbons. So Living Ribbons now pulls its target directly to you, always critically hits, and generates 20 Heaven's Wrath there. And then we have Guardian Ribbons. So with this, the projectile reflect chance goes up by 5%, and you gain 10% damage reduction. That could work really well with weakening the Infinity system and the damage reduction as well there to make her nice and tanky. And then we have First Aid Blades, that's the first talent in this last line. So it's Ichor power damage up 20% versus bleeding, and damage absorbed 5% from bleeding enemies. Interesting there. And then we have Master of, I think it's Cyphos, I say this. Nothing for Nothing can be activated in additional time, and all activations use the sword portion, so that of course is our signature there. And then finally, Mastery of the Blades and Ichor. So Nothing for Nothing can be activated an additional time, and all activations will use the ribbon wielded Ichor portion there. So all very interesting, and it looks like she's got a whole lot more options. Thankfully, she's not going to be spirit starved anymore, and it almost looks like Gaz are trying to move away from regular spirit and heroes, because a lot of heroes have new resources now, and it's these two latest updates, Blade and Angela, have both moved away from just your standard resource that goes up and down. I kind of do hope they do that, because the standard resource can be a little bit boring, and there's lots of interesting things they can do with the resources. As we can see here, they can run down and then buff you as they run up, and lots of options, a lot more than just simply slap on an artifact to give you spirit sustain and forget about it. That really is a bit boring. But let's finish off this video with all these crash downs as promised here. So here we go. This should look good, and I'll just say thanks for tuning in, and I'll see you soon, and let's go for these crash downs. There we go, that was pretty good. See you all soon.